Hello, all my lovely friends. Welcome to Songbirds Creations Crochet and More. I'd like to welcome you all into the Songbird's Nest. I hope that you will enjoy your visit here. Today, I want to show a couple of techniques that I've discussed on other people's live streams and Zoom meetings and such. And some people have expressed some interest in a couple of the techniques that I do. So I thought I would just do a quick pop-up and show you just how I go about doing these two particular techniques. I hope everybody is safe and warm today. We've got a lot of crazy weather things going on in the country. We've got snow all over the place. I know Texas and Oklahoma, Arkansas, I think, have been getting snow. And then we've got the wildfires out in California. So I hope all my friends out that direction are safe. I know that one of the viewers in particular, they shut down their power yesterday due to the winds because they felt that the winds were a fire danger, possibly would take down wires and possibly start more fires. So yeah, it's just, there's some crazy stuff going on as far as weather. So I hope everybody is staying safe. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Julianne. Nice seeing you guys coming in. Glad to have you here. So if you are here and you're lurking, you may want to go back and if you're listening rather than watching, you may want to go back and watch the replay if you're interested in the techniques that I'm doing. So that you can see just how I go about what I'm doing. In my own part of the world, today we are getting snow. We're supposed to get maybe 4 or 5 inches, I think, by tomorrow morning sometime. But nothing real major here, just our usual winter stuff. But yesterday I went down to my studio thinking I was going to get things cleaned up and try to get my computer moved back down there. But found out I have no power in the back part of the basement. So I went to the breaker box and flipped on and off all of the breakers that were unlabeled. I didn't want to flip off and on the labeled ones because, you know, they're for things like the furnace and the hot water heater and stuff like that. So I didn't turn off any of those, but I turned off all the rest of them and flipped them all back on. No go, no power. So now we've got to go through the business of tracing the lines from that part of the basement up to the breaker box and find out just where things went wrong. This is a really old house, though. The house just turned 100 this year. So, you know, old house problems. So, hey, Izzy, I am so sorry to hear that you have a migraine. I hope you feel better soon. And hi, Sonia. Nice to see you. But yeah, so since I have no power to the back of the basement now, until we get that figured out, I am probably going to do a little moving things around to get me some, probably I will clear out this space that's back behind me right now, which right now is kind of the repository for all of my musical instruments. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do. I have a kind of large glass top desk in my bedroom. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is switch some things around in the living room, put the table that's back there behind me in another area of the living room, and then put the large desk over in that area to do my work on. And it's nice because it'll give me a lot of natural light to work with that window right there. Yeah, and then I'll, move my musical instruments into the bedroom, which I kind of had planned on doing anyway, just to kind of get them out of the living room space. So, yeah. Hello, Sid and Sonia's Creations. Izzy, the reason that I do a live stream is to be able to just talk and not have to type everything. So I am sorry, but I'm probably not going to be typing in the chat. Maybe you'll just want to watch the replay when you feel better. So since we have a few of us here now, first of all, I hope that you have given me a thumbie. If you haven't, I'd really appreciate if you do that for me. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do go out and subscribe. It's easy, it's free, and really helps my channel grow. I'm actually, as of yesterday, was almost at 180 subscribers. So I am growing slowly but surely. So the first thing that I am going to show today is how to do cro-hooking. Cro-hooking has been around for a long time. It was really popular back in the 70s, I think. That's when it saw its major influx. Cro-hooking is a lot like Tunisian in the way that you pick up your stitches and work them back up. But as you can see, there are definitely some differences, that being that you are working with a long hook that is double-ended. I also have a long hook, a long double-ended hook that has the wire across the center that you could work an afghan on. You could work an afghan on this hook, but you'd have your stitches really crowded. But yeah, so the hook being double-ended is one of the things that makes this type of crocheting or cro-hooking different than your regular Tunisian. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and move my camera down a bit so that you guys can see my hands and see what I'm doing. And I will kind of explain as I go along. Excuse me while I just adjust things. I'm sorry, I don't give anybody motion sickness. Trying to find a way to sit this camera up. Okay, I guess that will be the way I do it. So, this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a chain. And I think probably I will just do a small swatch to start with. So I have just done a chain of 15 stitches to start with. And then just like in Tunisian crochet, you go ahead and you pick up your stitches and you work in the back bump of your chain. So if you look at your chain, you've got this side of your chain that has the little V's, and then on this side of the chain, you've got the bumps. So I'm going to be picking up my stitches through these center bumps of the chain here. And then you just yarn over and pull up. And you kind of want to pull this first one a little tight because you want your very first stitch to be a little, keep it tight as well. And bear with me while I take off my glasses because it's really hard for me to knit or crochet with my glasses on. Hello, Ricky. I saw you come in. And hi, Louise. Nice to see you. Hey, Russ. Welcome in. Nice to see you here. So bear with me while I pick up this row of stitches. This cast on row is always the worst part, picking up those stitches through the bumps of your chain. Ugh. And this is a great big hook that I'm using. I decided to use my largest crow hook just because I figured it'd be easiest to see on the camera. So I'm not quite used to using a crow hook this big. It's a little big and wonky. Probably be easier if I was using a 5-weight yarn, which is actually probably what it's made for. I do have several of these crow hooks that I inherited from my mom. And I've got a lot of different sizes of them. I used my smallest one to make the hat that I've got posted on my community tab. Okay, so here we are with our cast on row. So this is basically just like you would do if you were doing Tunisian simple stitch. So if you were doing simple stitch, you would just take your yarn and yarn over, go through one, and then, go through two, go through two. Just go back, do the pass back the other way along the row. But because this is crow hooking, what we are going to do now is push our work to the other end of the hook, down to the second hook. And then we are going to pick up a second color of yarn. Now you don't have to do this in 2 colors of yarn, but if you saw the hat on my community tab, it does make a really neat effect, and it makes a reversible fabric with one side of the fabric being predominantly one color and the other side of the fabric being predominantly your second color. So if you make a hat in 2 colors, as you saw, if you saw the community tab post, when you turn up the cuff is going to be predominantly the other color of your crow hooking. So I'm just going to throw this on here and do a slip stitch to get started. Bear with me. I do not like this big old hook. And I'm working. I'm trying to work right-handed. Okay, so as you can see, I am left-handed, so I know my camera is showing this from a right-handed aspect, but I am left-handed, so when I slide my work to the other end of the hook, this is when you actually turn. Now in Tunisian crochet, you don't turn your work, and that's another big difference between this type of crochet and Tunisian. So I've got my second color of yarn on the hook. So now what I'm going to do is pull through, and you just go through one, and then from here you yarn over and go through two to make your pass back across the row. Okay. And just need to pull that up tight a little bit. So there we go. We've got our pass back across the row, done with the other color. Now, here is where you'll go across and pick up your next set of stitches, and you do that just like you would do for Tunisian crochet. So you'll be going and picking up your stitches through the bars on the front side of your crochet. So you just go through the bar, pick up your loop. And you'll want to make sure to get that first stitch kind of tightened up. And you just continue back across your row with the same color that you just worked your row off with. What's kind of nice about this is Tunisian simple stitch, when you work just one side of your row and don't turn, it tends to roll up. Cro-hooking does not roll, so you don't have to deal with that when you get your project done. Okay, so we've set up our next set of stitches to work with, and at this point we push our work to the other end of the hook, turn, and now we will pick up our white yarn again to work these stitches back off. So as before, you go through one stitch, and then you yarn over and pull through two. And here we are to the other end. And you can see now that this side of our work is showing predominantly white, and this side you can see is going to show predominantly red. So now we just go back down through the uprights of the red stitches and pick up our loops for the next pass. Okay, there we go. We've got all our stitches on the needle. So now we push back down to this end of the hook, turn our work, and pick up our red yarn to do our return pass. So go through one, yarn over, and start going through two. One thing I will say I like about this big needle is it definitely doesn't make as tight as stitches. Well, duh, because it's a huge needle, but it also works a lot quicker. I thought I was never going to get my husband's hat done. It took me, I kid you not, 3 days to make that stupid hat. I could have done it with knitting and been done with it in a day, but no, I decided I had to cro-hook it. Well, he wanted it, he works at Indiana University, and he wanted it in the school colors. So I was like, well, I've got red yarn. Well, actually, he found my red yarn, and he said, this would be perfect. And he said, do you have any gray? And I was like, yeah, I've got gray yarn. So I hunted up my gray yarn and decided to do it in cro-hooking. So that was my own mistake. But oh well. So now I am just going to work back through the white uprights and pick up my red stitches. Oops. Pick up a stitch, Margaret. Yep, so when I'm done here today, I am probably going to be spending the rest of the day rearranging furniture. That's always so much fun. Okay, so I got my 15, push to the other end of the hook, turn my work, pick up my white, and work my stitches back off. I will recommend a couple of other videos that I have found for cro-hooking. The one that I like the best is from the Crochet Crowd. I think it's Mikey that does it. He does a really good demonstration of cro-hooking. And for anybody right-handed, it would be a great one to go out and watch. So as you can see now that we've done a few rows, our red is really starting to get dominant on this side and our white on this side. And going back down through, picking up our next row of stitches. Now, I did say at the beginning of this that you can work this all in one color. You would just have to keep really good track of where you're at on your pattern. Doing it in two colors makes it really easy, because when you go to pick up your new stitches, you know that if your uprights are your second color, that you'll want to pick up the stitches in your first color. And vice versa, of course. So there we go. We've got them all picked up. Push to the other end of the hook and turn our work. Pick up our red, pull through, whoops, one, turn over, pull through two, and continue pulling through two on down the row. Oops, for some reason I've got two loops there. Okay, now to work this off, Tunisian crochet has a cast off method, and you'd use that basically just the same on cro-hooking. So the cast off method is basically to go through and pick up your stitch through the upright and then do a slip stitch. So you just keep picking up and slipping through. Pick up and pull it through. So you'll always only end up with one loop on your hook. So pick up your stitch, pull it through. And that basically just finishes off your work, because when you do a pass, you always have kind of a gap in between your uprights. Doing this cast off with the slip stitch kind of closes that up a bit so that you don't have that big gap. So pick up your stitch, pull it through. So basically it's just like doing a row of slip stitches down your row. Yeah. And you could actually do this with, if you have the same size crochet hook as what crow hook you're using, you could probably do this with a regular crochet hook, and it would be easier. working with this great big crow hook. I've got so much hook. I've got like almost a foot of hook sticking out the other end. It kind of makes it wonky trying to move it very nicely, but oh well, it is what it is. And there we go. So we are all cast off. So, like I said, you can see that one side is showing predominantly red. If I was making a hat and turned up a cuff, I could turn up this white side and have a white cuff on a red and white hat. Now, another thing I will mention about doing a hat with this is when I finished the crow hook portion of it, and I can't even remember exactly how many rows I did, but I did the hat. Let me go ahead. Bear with me. I did my hat with 50 stitches because the lengthwise of your crocheting is going to be to make the circumference of your hat. So I don't remember how many rows I did to make the hat. I just basically kept measuring it to see if it was fitting around. Once it got to where it was fitting around my head, I was good. So anyway, so once I got that done, and I did for the length to make the hat long enough from crown to brim, I did 50 stitches. That was a good length to make a hat. And once I got that done, normally what you do is just put a drawstring through and draw up the top of the hat, the crown of the hat. Well, doing that, made the hat really, I mean, trying to gather up that many rows made it really kind of wonky. So what I ended up doing was crocheting a row of single crochet. So I basically did a single crochet across the top edge of my hat and did one stitch in each row. Then I did a second row and decreased one stitch every second stitch so that it was half as many stitches to gather up when I was done. And that worked a lot better. Hey, Rescued. Good morning. Nice to see you. So that is basically how you go about doing crow hooking. The second thing I'm going to show you is something that I've talked about a few times on different live streams and on a couple of Zoom meetings that I've been on. And yeah, I haven't rescued. I haven't really watched any of the storm chasing this week. I know that all those storms are going on out there, but I just really haven't watched any. Have you got any snow down in Tennessee? Because I noticed they were doing a stream from Tennessee. Graybeard is MIA? Oh no. I hope he's okay. Well, I hope he shows back up in the chat and puts everybody's mind at ease, Rescued. Yeah, Julianne, I plan to be there at the members live or the members hangout, definitely. Ricky, yeah, I am the same way as far as rearranging furniture. I love rearranging furniture, but my body does not appreciate it much. Oh, Atlanta got snow too. I wonder if Marty's going to end up with any snow. Okay, so the second thing I was going to show today is my weird technique for knitting. So when I was learning to knit, I learned to knit as a left-handed knitter because I am left-handed. But recently, I picked up some needles. You two rescue, take care. I'll probably be on Brandon's chat later on. I picked up some needles and decided that I wanted to do some knitting. So I cast on my work and started knitting away. And it didn't take me very long to figure out that I was knitting right-handed. And that was really strange to me. And for the life of me at that point, I could not remember how to do it left-handed. But I started messing around and working with it, and I remembered how to knit left-handed as well. So I actually can knit my row with both hands. So I knit down one way, right-handed, and knit back up the row, left-handed. Now there's a couple of predominantly, I think the best known styles of knitting are English, which is the throw, and continental, which I think they call picking. So when I'm knitting right-handed, I knit English style, and when I'm knitting left-handed, I knit continental style. So I'm going to show you that now. So this is my row where I would knit English style. So I knit down the row. And now for your point of view, because I am showing you here, it's going to look like the purl side of the row, but because I've got the knit side facing me. But as you can see, as I'm knitting my stitches, when I wrap my yarn around, I'm wrapping it, so throwing it. That's the English style. And I'm pretty sure that my mom was an English style knitter. And my mom is the one that taught me to knit. So I'm sure that when she taught me, she had me sit across from her and mirror what she was doing. So I would have been knitting left-handed, but I'm sure I probably would have been throwing my stitches since that is how she showed me. Now, normally, if I was knitting this all right-handed, I would turn this and I would purl. If I'm doing stockinette stitch, I would purl back across the row. And if I'm doing English style, I would be wrapping my yarn front to back to do my purl stitches. These are some big old needles too. I don't normally knit with big needles like although they are fast. So this is how I would knit and purl if I was always just knitting right-handed. And then I would turn again and go back to the knit side of my work. So now I am just knitting back across the row, right-handed. Okay, so now I'm going to knit back across the row left-handed and show you how I would go about doing that. So for knitting left-handed, I found out that I knit continental style, which is the picking style. So basically that's just putting my needle through the yarn, through the stitch that's on the needle, and kind of grabbing hold of my stitch from back here and just picking it up and putting it on to my left hand needle. I'm trying to knit with my glasses on. I have a really hard time with wearing my glasses for doing any close work because my glasses are really for distance. So to really make use of my glasses, I would have to have much longer arms. And that is basically how I knit my rows with either hand. Hello, Susan E. Nice to see you. Julianne, have you already posted the info for the Zoom? Okay, I'll be looking for it once I'm done here. I'm not going to be staying on much longer. Oh, these big old needles. Okay, so once again, I knit down the row right-handed, and now I'm going to knit back up left-handed. And one thing that I find makes Susan E., I am not really knitting anything. I'm just knitting a swatch to show you weren't here for the earlier part of this. I am a lefty. I'm very, very much a left-handed crocheter. And when I learned how to knit back over 50 years ago, I learned how to knit left-handed as well. But a few years ago, I picked up some knitting and started working on it and discovered that I was knitting right-handed. And it took me a minute to figure out how to go back to knitting left-handed. It was so strange. And I say that I was channeling my mother because my mom was a right-handed knitter. My mom was an excellent knitter. So, yeah. So it took me a minute to figure out again how to crochet left-handed again, or how to knit left-handed again. But I did. But what I figured out is that when I knit right-handed, I knit English style, which is where you throw the yarn. And when I knit left-handed, I knit continental style, which is where you pick your stitches. So right now I'm going to work back across my row left-handed and pick the stitches. So what I figured out is I can knit a stockinette stitch and never have to turn my work, because I can knit my stitches off either direction. And what I have found out with continental style, what makes it easier to pick your stitches is to have your stitches fairly close to the point of your needle, so there's not so much room to pull them off. So that's working back across the row left-handed. And then once again, just put my needle in and start working back across right-handed. And I'll have to say, when I'm actually knitting something, I don't really do this. But it is kind of fun that I can do it. I mean, it's, just one of those weird brain things. And I will have to say that actually, now that I have started knitting right-handed, when I do make something, I will probably knit it right-handed. And there we go. So that's just my little swatch of basically ambidextrous knitting. So guys, I am going to go ahead and sign off. I am going to head over to Julianne's and enjoy some time hanging out there. So I hope that you have all enjoyed hanging out with me today. I'm hoping that I will have things set up here soon so that I can continue to do my videos from the living room, but it'll be a little different aspect here soon once I get furniture moved. But yeah, I will check you all out later. Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate you being here today. If you haven't done it already, please do give me a thumbie. If you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. It's easy, it's free, and it really helps my channel grow. Last I knew, I was just about to 180 subscribers, so I would really like to see 200 soon. That would be just really fun. So, yeah, if you're coming in late, please go back and watch I have 181. Thank you, Scrimshaw. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, so thanks again. And I hope you all have a safe, happy, wonderful day. Stay warm. If you're in the wildfire area, please stay safe. And I hope to see you all again soon. Take care. Bye bye.